Welcome to the podcast series, Irish by the Grace of God. And here's your host, Tony Gormley.
Great news, everybody. Irish by the Grace of God have now got a badly needed sponsor. GetDigs.ie are an Irish company that specialise in rental accommodation on a Monday to Friday basis. And homeowners can rent out a room in their home for part of the week and still avail of the government's rent a room scheme and earn up to 14,000 per annum tax-free. That's 14 grand. That's a serious incentive. They also have a presence in the UK with getdigs.co.uk, and there homeowners can earn up to £7,500 sterling per annum tax-free for renting out a room. And now they're also launching in the USA with a website called 5sleeps.com. That's the number 5 followed by sleeps.com, 5sleeps.com. So check out the websites for more details and make contact with them. My next guest is Ruth Hoey, and I think I have the pronunciation right there, Ruth, depending on what area of Ireland you're in. So she's born and bred in Drogheda, and she's been traveling since, I suppose, young adults onwards. Ruth, you're very welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And thanks a million for coming on.
Thank you. It's exciting.
So anyway, we'll start off with maybe your history growing up in Ireland. You know, what was that like growing up in Drogheda? You know, second or primary school, secondary school, education, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I think it's probably not dissimilar to a lot of Irish people in that. Well, I'm from a very, very small place. So as you said, Drogheda, where I'm actually from, is Sandpit, Termonfeckin, County Louth, which is two very micro villages next to Drogheda. So my upbringing was so small. Like, I suppose everything. There was 16 in my class in primary school.
Wow,
right? 16 of us, we don't know, which is now, like, you think about grades in the US where there's hundreds and hundreds of kids your own age. Like, that's such a different kind of experience we had growing up. And then obviously when I got older, I went to secondary school, it was like a bigger experience. And then I went to college in Dublin, and obviously that was a lot bigger. But I think the whole experience of coming from a very, very small place where everyone kind of knows each other, which is so lovely, but also I think it's just made me, I think, so antsy to kind of get out and not get out and leave in a way that I didn't like it, but I felt like the world was just so big.
Right.
And I was in a very small place and I was itching to kind of get out and discover it. I think that's, if I can think about my sentiment and my relationship with Ireland growing up, it felt very much like I couldn't wait to kind of live. I couldn't wait to experience the world. Much to, I think, my mum's stress levels. It was like I couldn't understand at 14 why I couldn't go to London by myself for the weekend. Like, I just couldn't understand why I had to stay here for another 4 years or whatever. I couldn't grasp it. So that, I think,
that's what parents are there for, I think.
And it's funny, I have a twin sister, and she's very similar. We both had that exact same sense growing up, but it meant we would just tag team just both go at her at the same time, at our parents, to be like, let us do this, let us do this, let us leave, let us do this. And couldn't understand and was just so outraged that we had to stay in Termonfeckin until we finished our education. Like, that was the biggest disappointment of my teenage life. But looking back, it's such a great place to grow up. Like, I've still got a lot of friends from Termonfeckin, and I still there's a lot of fondness, and people remember you and remember details about you and know your uncles, know your aunts, know your mom and dad, and all that stuff is actually so special. now that I do live in a very big place where there's a little bit more alienation than there would be, say, even in Ireland.
Termonfeckin is a great name. It's nearly like a swear word, isn't it?
Did you hear this story though about the signs? This story is great. Like somehow the road signs for Termonfeckin have been getting stolen lately, and they're showing up on the black market for like tens of thousands of euro. Like you can buy a sign for, I think it's to sell to maybe Irish pubs all over the world, but the signs are getting robbed. So it's quite funny. So I don't know if there are any signs here at the moment, but I don't know, if you're in an Irish pub in Uganda and you see a Termonfeckin sign, it's probably bought illegally.
Well, thanks for advertising that anyway. So whatever signs are left are going to be gone soon.
The council or whatever, the parish committee can have my head.
So that's primary school. Where was secondary school, Ruth?
I went to Green Hills in Drogheda. It's an old girls' school, and it was pretty big.
I know Green Hills, yeah.
Yeah. So I did transition year there. I loved it. It was like, I loved the last few years. It was, again, just like it was big. There were a lot of girls in my year, and it was kind of mad in the sense that, you know, I don't know, 150 girls all in one year can seem like to people, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I still have great friends from that.
So yeah, that's great. And all the usual teenage discos and youth clubs and all that kind of stuff.
No, maybe this is why I was such a crazy person. My mom wouldn't let us go to a load of that stuff when she was quite strict.
Wow.
Which led to, I think, why me and my sister are kind of we're a bit mad then when we left, because we were just so itching to go to all these things. When I was turned 17, they gave up a little bit and said, you know, you're an adult now.
That's perfect. Yeah,
you're an adult now. You can take responsibility for yourself. So once I turned 17, I think the parental controls lessened somewhat.
Okay. And then leaving cert then, and did you go to uni?
I did. I went to Trinity in Dublin.
So you were unleashed in Dublin.
I was, and we lived up there in halls on Dartry Road in an apartment with 6 girls who are still my best friends.
Wow.
Going to one of their weddings at the weekend. But it was just freedom. It was freedom in just pure and utter freedom. Absolutely loved it. And I had a bit of money from a part-time job, and I could make 20 euro stretch for, like, 20 euro was a great night out. Like, that was an amazing night out. You got a bottle of wine or a naggin of vodka, a couple of shots when you were in there, a taxi home, and maybe a chipper if you were lucky, and that was a great night.
Yeah.
And I went out every single night of the week. I didn't go to college much. Should have gone more, I think, when I look back. But I did a year of that abroad. So for my 3rd year, I went to LA. I got to do a study abroad opportunity, which I think really awakened my desire to leave and to move abroad one day.
Brilliant. And what did you study, Ruth?
So I studied English literature and history. So my degree is probably as useful at like a dinner party more than in the real life. But it was I loved it. It was English and history were my favorite subjects at school, and I still love reading, and something I just love to do. And I felt if I needed to study something for 4 years, it better be something that I liked. That was my thought process.
Brilliant. Yeah. So you finished your degree, and what happened? You did your 3rd year in Los Angeles. So you got a taste of, you know, being abroad and being let loose in the world.
Yeah. And so I went to UCLA for a year. So it was kind of jammy in the sense, like, it's such a good opportunity. Like the Erasmus opportunity or the study abroad and college opportunity is such an amazing opportunity. Lots of people do it and go to all different places. And some of them, I think, end up in like, I don't know, doing their degree in Spanish, which is a lot more academic than I was. I went to an English speaking country and went to UCLA, which is a really fun, it's a beautiful school. So it's like the campus that like is in the California movies of like huge lawns, football games, basketball games.
Wow.
Like it's the experience.
And how many students? How many students would be in there?
Oh my God, thousands and thousands. It's huge.
Yeah, yeah.
And they have things like they have a whole shopping center there. They have
Jeez.
you know, a big auditorium. They have a music hall that like does symphonies, and it's like a little mini town. And the town itself that it's in is called Westwood, which is beautiful, right next to Beverly Hills. It's near Santa Monica. Like it is in a little perfect enclave of Los Angeles that like I could never afford to live there myself even now, but it was just so magic. And it was great because I went by myself. I just met people. Oh, I lived on dorms and I just met all these people and who I didn't know a soul. And it was just
you stayed on campus, so was it?
Yeah. So, and campus accommodation was very expensive, and so three of us were in one room on 2 sets of bunk beds. Like it was so funny, and we were the best of friends, just in our bunk beds and desks.
And were they Irish or were they American?
One was English and one was American.
Oh wow, yeah.
So, and I'm still pretty close with the English girl. Went to her wedding this summer. We were pretty close. She was actually in Trinity as well. I just didn't know her. But we just were unleashed, and then we were 21, which was a huge deal because then you can drink there.
That's right.
So that made us, film stars practically. And it was just a fabulous experience. It was a lovely way of just like bringing yourself into a scenario with no training wheels. You've no friends to kind of support you, you've no family to kind of there to support you. It's a real exercise in knowing yourself and relying on yourself and trusting yourself and just going with things. And it's like at 21, that's probably the best thing I could have done, to get to know myself.
Brilliant. And it was the same third year. It's the same course. It's history and English and okay, brilliant.
And then you go back and do your 4th year. But I didn't do much study in UCLA. I think I did a little bit, but I was more enjoying the experience of it. And then that kind of made things a bit trickier when I came home to Dublin and did my 4th year. But we got through it, and we got the degree, and everything worked out great.
Brilliant. So you have your degree in your back pocket, and you're in Ireland. So what does Ruth do then? Do you start working in Ireland?
Yeah, it's so funny. So I remember being in LA and just loving California and knowing that I wanted to come back to California. Like that, I never really knew what I wanted to do. I didn't ever have like grand ambitions to be this or that. But I did know I really wanted to get back to the US. And I tried to do my 4th year in the US, but I couldn't because it wasn't part of the agreement and I didn't have a visa. And so I remember thinking to myself, if I want to get back to America, I need to get a job in a company that will sponsor me a visa. Like I had that realization at 22 when I was applying for jobs, which was quite helpful in terms of like I had a focus of what companies and kinds of companies I wanted to go for when I was applying for jobs. And so I remember thinking like, oh, Google, that's like a big tech company, they're American. Like it was that thought process. And so I applied for a lot of multinational companies, and then I got a grad job at Google in Dublin when I was about, I did a couple of jobs before then, but I was probably 9 months out of college when I got that job with Google in Dublin. And I had a very clear idea of like, okay, I'm here and I'm going to work as hard as I can so I can transition or go back over to the US.
So I kind of curious, Ruth, like your degree is in English and history, and you're applying for, you know, multinational high-tech positions. How does somebody with an English and history degree wangle their way into Google? What's the position or what's the role?
Well, so those grad jobs at the time, and I think they still are now in a lot of those companies, they're kind of either sales jobs, like you're kind of entering in an ad sales job and you're kind of getting versed in sales, or you're doing like a customer support service, but they're very people focused. And the goal of that program is to hire a person, not necessarily of their degree, not necessarily for their degree, but they're really thinking about the person and the skill set and how they can develop and grow that person. So those companies kind of look at candidates that way, which is helpful for someone with my degree. But I did a lot of college like activities. I did society stuff at college, like I was treasurer of a debate society. I did an internship in sales with Procter and Gamble during the summer. Like I had experience. I always worked.
Yes.
And so I think that was really helpful in terms of selling myself into my first job, which was a variation of like customer support, ad sales. That was that kind of job, which you know, you need to demonstrate that you are able to work with people, you're able to sell, you're able to communicate really well. You've kind of got a business acumen of some kind, even if it isn't represented in a degree, like on a degree paper per se, like you have to do some aptitude tests. So that's kind of how it happened. Now it was also 2014 and Google Dublin was hiring grads as fast as they could. I was very lucky with timing. And so
you come across as at a very young age, as well as having a clear vision of where you want to be and of being highly motivated as well. So that obviously was very helpful to, you know, achieving where you wanted to go.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't know if I hadn't gone to LA, I don't know if I would have had that focus, you know, because I had a goal.
Sure.
I think it's really hard to leave college. Generally, it's very difficult because it's such a change. There's no structure anymore, or there's no safety anymore. You're in the real world and you're like, is this it? Like, this is hard, right? This is hard. So it's hard anyway. And I think it's even more difficult if you don't have any idea of what it is that you want to do. And I think just even me knowing that I wanted to go to this place was helpful. Like I did, because it didn't really matter to me what I did that much. Provided it was a good company with good people. That was something I cared about, was like the environment I worked in. Less so the path per se. And so having that goal from LA or from traveling abroad and kind of having that goal of wanting to experience living in the US was helpful, I think.
Yeah, it's peculiar. I mean, I'm in the twilight of my career and I still don't know what I want to do.
No, and it's so much, I think it's so damaging, I think sometimes to tell people you should have like a passion and you should be working in your passion. Like that's stressful. Because oftentimes people's passions are not necessarily anything to do with their job, right? Could be like your passion is your family, or your passion is your hobby, and so sometimes I'm like, do a lot of different things, try out a bunch of stuff, work with good people, have a job that you like and you feel motivated by, and you can change it. You're not stuck to certain career paths. I think telling people you have to have one thing that you should know and you should stick with and be the best at is not realistic, and it's sometimes not helpful.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
And so how long did you stay in the Dublin Google?
I stayed there for about 2.5 years.
Okay.
So yeah, you have to do a certain amount. I loved it. It was like I had a great crew of people who I started at the same time with. We're all like very close friends. Such a good company to develop you as a young grad. And that you work with it is still the European headquarters. So there's people from all over Europe working there and the US to a degree, but it's such a hub. It's so fun. It's all like people in their 20s, mainly 40s, a little bit now, 50s, and everyone's just there because they have the job. So they're open to meeting new people, open to, having friendships with new people. So I was just meeting so many different people all the time.
Yeah.
Which
So
was really cool.
the impression, back in the day anyway, when they came first, was Google was colored bean bags and slides coming down into the lobby and all that kind of stuff. Is that what?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely still like that. Typically during a working day, if you're, pretty busy, you're not on a beanbag. And if you're always on a beanbag, maybe there's a reason for it. But it's a great place to work. Like but I think it's less so for those, more so for the openness and inclusivity and the people that they hire and the energy that does when you have great people from all different backgrounds. Like that gives such an energy. Like I've worked in places before where it's just been the same staff for like decades and decades and decades, and there's just a very singular way of doing things. And like if you don't fit in, or if your ideas are a little bit different, you can feel very stifled, or you feel like you don't really belong. And I think having a more open, inclusive, dynamic atmosphere is like the real kind of color of it, the real magic of it, versus the perks, which are still very nice. But it's kind of those things I think are most important.
So, okay, so you're 2.5 years there. Does a position come up in San Francisco that okay, tell me
you'd need. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, you're all right. Just tell me the story behind that.
Yeah, so you have to do a bit of time, like everyone kind of does their grad role for like 2 years, 2.5 years, and then you're kind of, I guess, eligible for other positions because you can demonstrate you've a bit of company experience behind you. And then an opportunity opened up in San Francisco, doing like kind of more the ad sales that I was doing in Dublin, but kind of for bigger, larger clients. And so again, I didn't really care what kind of client base. I was like, just get me the job that opened up, that was how I went about it. And so yeah, I got the job and I moved over in October 2016. So October 6th, I think, was around the time I moved.
And
so
just in terms of the emigrating experience, or just leaving Ireland with the knowledge that you're more than likely going to be gone for, some time, how did that hit you? And, how did it hit your family? And, was it emotional or?
I don't know. It's,
I never asked him. I never asked him.
I think that's honestly it. I think I just said they knew I always wanted it. And they knew it was probably going to happen at some point, unless something changed here that would make me stay. And so I don't think it was a surprise. And I think at the beginning, I very much was of the mindset, and I think a lot of immigrants are, that like, it'll be 1 year or 2 months. I'm going to try it for a year.
Yeah.
I think it's harder now when I'm gone 6 years and I'm not showing really much sign of returning. I think that's a little bit more difficult for them than the initial move, which was just excitement. I felt just total excitement. And it's funny, if I were to do it again now, I'd be so much more nervous and have so much more trepidation. But back then, I just put all my stuff in 2 suitcases and away I went. Like I didn't
fearless.
fearless. And
Yeah.
I just think now I'm like, oh God, now I second guess whether I move anywhere else. What do I do? Like I don't know how I was so singular and so fearless then, but I was. And I think maybe a lot of people have that feeling when they're 26, which I was then. But I just moved. I just went. And
so, and had you any connections over there? Obviously, you'd meet people at work, but did you integrate with any of the Irish? You often hear people just heading to an Irish pub or heading to an Irish club or trying to integrate in the Irish. Was that anything you did, or did you shy away from that scene?
I think it was a bit of both. So I only knew 2 people there at the beginning. So one of my best friend from LA, he was from San Francisco and he lived there, and he's American and has been born and raised there. So he put me up for the first couple of weeks.
Oh, brilliant.
Whilst I kind of found myself an apartment. And then at the same time, girls from work moved over as well. She's Irish, moved over the exact same time. And so she was like, she and I lived together. So I was like, so I lived with this Irish girl, and who was brand new as well. And I had a best friend who was American. And so it was, me and Kate is her name, the Irish girl, Kate and I think at the very beginning had said, we're going to everything. Like if we get an invite, we're going. If we hear something going on, we're going. Yeah. And we followed Ollie, who was the American friend. We followed him everywhere. We just said, can we come? Can we come? Can we come? And we just went to everything. And I think as well, I think we were a month in, and or a month or 6 weeks in, we were a bit reluctant to just hang out with Irish people, but also at the same time, we didn't know Irish people. Like, we didn't know anyone there. So I think I was just happy to hang out with people. And I think we were there 2 months max, 6 weeks. And Kate was like, we've just met all these people in separate situations. We should have a party. We need to just have a party and just ask them to come. These people we may have just met once or twice, get them all to come and get them to bring anyone they want to bring. And that was the best thing we could have done, because it kind of formed a little crew that you kind of had.
Brilliant.
But honestly, the first year is like a bit of a blur. It was, I don't really remember. I remember going to everything, not knowing where I was going, not knowing who the person was. And just, it's like throwing stuff at a wall and hoping something will stick. That was what I would describe the first year. And then more people moved over through work. More Irish people moved over, and then it started to grow a little bit more.
Okay, excellent. So, just get your views on, differences between Ireland and US culturally, workplace, to talk about the Irish crack. Do the Americans get the sarcastic crack of the Irish and that type of thing? What's your take on that?
Yeah, it depends who you talk to. I think culturally, no. Culturally they're very polite. They're very proper and kind of polite. And it depends. You just have to get one or two, and once they kind of realize that we're having a bit of crack here, they'll get with it. So we've a pretty big kind of Irish crew, and there's some Americans in it who are practically more Irish than us at this point. Like, they get the crack, they get the sarcasm, they're mad, and they've been to about 20 Irish weddings already, so there's a few of them like that. I would say a big difference culturally in a positive way is Americans are very positive when it comes to success, right? So I'd like to think of that was something I noticed, and maybe it's being in San Francisco where there's a lot of new businesses and there's a lot of startups and there's a lot of stories of people taking big risks for professional success or to do cool things. And in America, I just couldn't get over with the positivity with which those people were being discussed. They were like, isn't that person so cool? Like, look what he's doing. He's hustling so hard. Whereas in Ireland,
we'd knock
maybe
them.
I'm being
we'd
knock
bring them
people a
down.
bit. We bring them down, exactly. We kind of say, we'll find the negative. We'll say something like, well, he got help, he got help, he got a bit of help for that, or his family are in that business anyway, and like, we take them down. Whereas in America, there's such a celebration of people's success that I found a really kind of a distinction. And that's probably why people go to those places, because you've got not only money or money there, but people are willing to put that money towards you, and people are willing to like cheer you on and give you the motivation that you need when you're doing something very difficult, like starting your own company.
I think probably my take on it is there's probably more of an entrepreneurial side of things in the States, and probably confidence has a lot to do with it as well. But I think Ireland are getting there as well. You've got the Collison brothers are not doing too badly.
Yeah, they're doing great. And they're really highly regarded in the States too, and really highly regarded in San Francisco, where I think they have a big office there too. And so, no, I do think it's really changing. I think that was definitely, though, one of the things I just noticed just in everyday discussions with people, like like even someone, who might be 10 degrees of separation away from like the company or something, they'd be like, oh, look, but that's so cool. Like there was like a kind of a broader cultural appreciation for people working really hard. They have to work very hard though. Like it's a very tough place to live. It is very expensive. It is stressful, but it's also like, losing your job over there, you could lose everything. So people work incredibly hard. And I think that's why I think in Ireland, we have a lot more of a like 9 to 5, I'm not, when I'm done and I'm going to relax now. And there's a lot more of a European laid backness or approach to work-life balance in Ireland that I appreciate, and I try and adopt more than working every hour that God gives. But I think in America you have to appreciate that people have to work so hard because it is just a really tough place to live.
So Ruth, before the interview started, we were just discussing different hobbies and stuff like that. And you mentioned that one of your passions is skiing in the mountains. But you also mentioned that you had a passion for reading. So what type of stuff are you reading at the moment?
Yeah, so I love fiction, contemporary fiction. I love, trying to read mindfulness books now. I think that's another great thing about America that's inflected, is this kind of people being focused on their mental health and people embracing therapy. So I'm kind of into all of those books as well. I love cooking.
There's a great book you should, if you get a chance. He's a Limerick man, Dermot Whelan. He's also on the radio. He wrote a book called Mindful.
Ooh.
And it's a really good read. So you should get your hands on that. Now, probably the most important question of the night is, what do you miss most about Ireland? Barry's tea, potato crisps, a pint of Guinness, or your mother's cooking?
Oh, it's so funny. Like, I never used to care about any of this stuff. And then you move and you're like, hook the Guinness to my veins. See, I bring back all the Barry's tea so much. And my mother is an excellent cook. She would not want me to say otherwise. I think I miss you know what I mean? I think it's like the mother's cooking on it's a pint of Guinness. It's a pint of Guinness. Sorry, it just can't be topped anywhere else. Like I can buy the butter, I can buy the berries, I can attempt to replicate my mum's, but you just can't. You can't get a good Guinness in San Francisco.
No,
like,
you can't. It doesn't.
Forget about it.
I don't think it travels well, does it?
There's a spot in New York that I think I've had a decent pint in, but like the further west you go, it's just not happening.
Yeah. Okay, listen, just so the listeners know, Ruth traveled today from San Francisco. So how many hours were you traveling in total?
It's about a 10-hour flight. So it's not as bad if you think of like Australia and other places. But yeah, I'm a bit tired. You're
wrecked. Okay, you'll earn your sleep. Listen, Ruth, thanks a million. Really appreciate your time. And hopefully we'll meet again.
Thank you so much. This was really fun. Thanks a million for asking me.
Not at all. Have a good one.
Take care. Bye.
Cheerio now. Bye. Bye-bye. Thanks everyone for listening to this week's episode of Irish by the Grace of God. If you like it, please share it with your friends and family and check out our website shows.acast.com/Irish by the Grace of God -podcast. Here you'll find all our social media pages to make contact. If you know of any Irish people living abroad with an interesting tale, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you and tune in next week. Bye bye.